Sorry for the delay, everyone. If you're wondering why it looks a little bit different here, it's because I made the wonderful, uh, careless decision to lock my keys inside of my office. I think it was just inside of my pocket, and it slipped out when I left to go out to run some errands, and then I came back. And I was like, oh, I don't have my keys. So that's why we have a little bit of a different scene today, and I don't have my camera hooked up or anything. But we're going to continue regardless with the good old topic of are car meets, specifically the free ones, the ones where like you meet up at a parking lot or like a Starbucks or like a small mom and pop business. Are those kind of car meets dead? And I would say, depending on your area, yeah. Um, I would say a lot of these ones, maybe in the beginning, they start off with good intentions. Maybe uh, the host wanted something really good that everybody can kind of come and hang out. And it doesn't have to be a thing where you have to, like, you know, promote it, do pre sales. Somebody has to pay to get in order to have access. It's just a collection of people with common interests getting together and enjoying, talking about cars or learning more about cars, trying to figure out a problem for their car if they're just starting out. And I think what happens the longer that you hang out at these events, a lot of the bad actors will kind of show up. A lot of the people that will take over the event, if you will. And these people, they don't really care. They just kind of want to show off for whatever reason. Some of them show off in their stolen cars, and they have no regard for the host, the event, or what the purpose is of the event. And it turns into a whole thing where it just looks bad on everybody, because even though it may have not have been the original host intent to have that kind of thing end up being the way that it ended up, it turned into that. So people will always look to the host, right? Because they're the name to the or sorry, they're the face to the event, or they're the name to the event. It's these people who come in towards the end. Nobody knows who they are. They wear masks. They don't necessarily promote themselves unless they're very careless. But now that law enforcement is starting to get a little bit more strict, they're starting to not really promote themselves. If they do, they'll just be like, oh, this is borrowed footage, or this is uh, footage that I got as a spectator. I didn't necessarily know that this was going to happen, but I was there. I was kind of trapped, and so I decided to take a couple of videos. And uh, I think this is where we as a community need to figure out what we're going to do moving forward, because when it comes to these events, it's great that we can have events that are free. It's great that we can have events that businesses are open to having us. But then once these events turn into something where people get hurt, property gets damaged, it becomes a bad look for the business, it becomes a bad look for the original host. Nobody wants to have us around at these places anymore. Nobody cares, what our original intent is. And so it turns into a thing where the only option that we really have is going to, if you'll excuse me here, just because I have to work off my laptop, which I haven't actually done on a live stream before. So um, let's see here. This is actually coming up next month. So no, I don't want you to know where I'm at. And so it comes to a point where the only thing that we have where we can feel that we're safe from our reputation, where we're safe from law enforcement or anything like that, is we have to go to events that are paid for. In this case, it's $30 or $45. It's not necessarily breaking the bank or anything, but it's still a situation that we have to um, we have to pay for. It puts a barrier to the event. It puts a barrier to bringing people together. It brings a barrier to people finding solution to their problem or getting inspiration for their next project. Collaboration. It just puts that barrier there versus these free events. It's great because anybody can come. It's open to everybody. It's just that when people come and you can't necessarily prevent people rolling up to a parking lot that you don't own. You you can't really prevent that. You can't, let's say for example they don't even come to your event, but they start swinging donuts, they block off the intersection that is in the immediate vicinity of your event. People are going to associate the two parties together even though you're not. And you guys know that I'm very closely associated with one of the people who has a booth here, or two people actually, two companies, Obsessed Studio as well as SC Bimmer. And they have a tendency now to really control the events that are open to the public. Like this isn't necessarily open to the public. This isn't necessarily their event. It's Week Fest event and their attendees. But when it comes to their events, so let's see here. So when it comes to their events, like when they do stuff like this, it's very much controlled. It's in their neck of the woods or their backyard, and it's limited. Like the spots are limited. So if you come in, you're going to have to walk in, or if you try to do something irresponsible, it's going to be pretty far away because of how isolated the area is. And again, this creates another barrier of entry to other people because it's restricted physically, right? People, it's not as easy to access. Sometimes, depending on the area that it's in, people might not want to park far. Uh, People might just feel like, oh, it's really inconvenient for me to go to the place after so many people have been there. I can't, come in late. I have to come early, and I can't do that. So it makes it hard to have these kind of things, to have these kind of events that anybody and everybody can come to, which is kind of sad. So let's see here if we can go to Obsessed Studios. No, it's Obsessed Garage. Let's see here. I just wish that there was a way, and maybe some of you can help me brainstorm in terms of how we can make it more accessible to everybody. Instagram is always a little bit difficult on desktop, I will say. Let's see here. Oh, there it is. So I don't know if they've actually had an event. I mean, this is they film Cars too, Obsessed does, but the last time they've had a meet that was their own and organized is still mostly Week Fest stuff. Oh, here you go. So it's hard. Like to have a meet like this is difficult because they rented out the entire space. So that drone shot that you saw from the top, they controlled everything. The point of entry to this place, they controlled. See, like they're holding up the traffic signs and everything. They controlled everything at this event. And you can imagine, to reserve a venue of this size, to have this many people come in for free, cost them money. It also costed them a lot of time, effort, manpower to be able to not just have the permission to control a venue of this size, but also to actually make sure that it goes smoothly at the time of the event. And so events like this can't always be coordinated in this fashion. They can't always be this finely controlled because of the amount of effort that comes into it. It's not as simple as just posting up on Instagram saying, hey, let's go meet up at this place and just hang out and talk and chill. Uh, and then even at this event, they were even controlling the traffic coming down because this specific venue, they said no burnouts, no pools, no revs, no nothing. And it's a sacrifice that we have to make in order to get this many people together. So even when people are going away, right? When they pull away, they're away from this specific area. Let's see if we can pause it. We can. So as soon as it gets there, we'll pause it. But it's kind of unassociated with the place, but like the venue knows that the people came more than likely from this event that did the pools and caused the disturbances in the area. So let's see here. So if you look at this whole area, like this whole area here, it's blocked off. It's not until you start getting out of the driveways and into the actual public roads that people started doing the burnouts and all of the ridiculousness and stuff like that. However, when people do that, there's always people at the end recording, and this is where people will get banned. However, it's hard to ban somebody if they come in a different car. It's hard to ban somebody if like the people that are checking them as they come in aren't always the same. So like I said, it's very hard to create an event this controlled that allows this many people in and not have any hiccups. It's always going to be up to us as the participants to make sure that we can have events like this, that the hosts will want to continue to have events like this because it's not cheap, right? It's cheap for all the people that went there, but my buddy David and his partner Victor, like they paid for this. And so I attribute this to saying it's like you're going to someone's house, and if maybe you break something accidentally, like maybe you break a glass. It's like, okay, like it was an accident. If it's your friend, they're probably like, don't worry about it, I'll cover it. But you don't run up into the house with a baseball bat and start just like breaking everything. And that's what these people do who come in, they take over the event, and they do the things that are specifically prohibited by the host. They say, don't do this because we can't come back here. And it came close. It came very close, if I'm not mistaken, this last year where they can't reuse this venue because of what some people did. And so that's why they had to take a hard ban on some people that were there, and they're going to be on the lookout next time. So I just don't know what some of you would recommend in terms of like how we can get a grasp of the community back, how we can kind of get things back to normal. And it's hard just because of when you do the free events, like let's go meet up at a Starbucks, or let's go meet up at like this mom and pop restaurant, whatever it is. And sometimes it's like it's with good intent because maybe the mom and pop place is somebody that maybe it's a restaurant that you really like and they're kind of struggling just because of the times that we're in. And so you say, hey, you know what? They're going to offer everybody who comes in, from this time to this time, 10% off. Let's all just go and hang out there and have a good time. And it's great for the business because it brings in a lot of foot traffic. It brings a lot of awareness to the place. And if they provide a good service to the people, whether it be through the food or the drinks or whatever it is, then people will come back, after the event. However, if you create a bad reputation, the business isn't going to want you back, and people may not go back there because they'll associate the event that happened there. It's not just like law enforcement and all that stuff, but sometimes people get into altercations there and they do other extracurricular activities. So it's tough. I mean, if the reason why I wanted to talk about this was actually I have a it's not necessarily a colleague, but a friend of mine. She kind of got caught in the middle of one over this last weekend, and I was kind of thinking about this because just over the last weekend, um, yeah, just this last weekend, I'm surprised that Yahoo News is even out there. Like, why is that top? Like, I don't even know Yahoo did news anymore. But all right, that's besides the point. So, well, good for Yahoo, I suppose. Um, yeah, so you can see this article, there are takeovers, and then I'm going to assume that these people stole these cars. Like, there's no other way that I can rationalize. You go to this meet, you bring your car there, you trash your tires at the very least. Like if you're not just a spectator, if you go there and you're a participant, you go there, you trash your tires, potentially your suspension, or at least you put significant wear on them at the very least. And then a lot of the times the cars crash, whether it be they crash into a person, they crash into an object, and then people jump on the car, they stomp on them, they light them on fire, they do all these things. And there's no way that I can believe somebody spent time at a job to earn money, which is hard to come by nowadays, to buy a car, to trash it, and then set it on fire. And so I don't know what it is. Like, they say that they're getting stricter with these things, but my friend who got caught over this last weekend, she said the police just kind of waited for them to finish and then like didn't even really chase anyone. Like, there's nothing, like there's no repercussion that happens to them. And so uh I don't know. I don't really know. It's one of the reasons why I would love to go to like some cars and coffee, especially like the ones that like kind of like are around my work. Like, I'll just see them like on somebody's post or their story, and I'm like, oh, that'd be nice. But then it's like I don't want to go because this could always happen. This is always a possibility of it happening. And then it's not just like this, but like, it's easy to kind of track me down specifically because, I have, the social media stuff, and then it can fire back at me at work. So this is where like some people who have something to lose, whether it be reputation or they just don't want to look a certain type of way, won't go to these events. And I think, let's see here. I think Sam said it here perfectly. Let's see here. Sam said it right here. That takeovers, uh, they've ruined the entire car scene. And you're not popping up for some reason. Oh, there you are. Wonder why it's so small. And I couldn't agree more. I don't necessarily see the appeal in it. I saw an article today that was saying like, I mean, they say that social media has kind of ruined things for the younger generation, but I think it's kind of like, albeit the whole scenario of like video games promotes, violent activities at school. Let's leave it at that. And I don't necessarily believe that because it's always going to be the parents who bought the video games for the kids. It's always the parents who didn't teach the kids good values. It's the parents who bought the kids the cell phones that have the social media that the parents didn't block or didn't or just didn't give the kid the phone to, or didn't make sure that their kid was like mature enough to handle having social media accounts. The parents didn't regulate. It's always something else that's not the parents. Like, the parents never want to take responsibility, right? How come there's so much student debt? How come the kids are doing poorly in their academic lives? It's the school. It's the price of things. No, it's the parents. It's the like you're in control of most of what goes on, and everything but you is the problem. So that's the way I see it. Um, the way I see it with this stuff is, people will say that, there's always the people that will say firearms don't kill people. People, do that to other people. And the same thing then gets applied to social media. Social media doesn't make people do this stuff. People do this stuff. It's just a lack of accountability. And then it's not just a lack of accountability, there's no repercussions for this kind of behavior, right? Everybody will always just say, well, they can claim the insurance. Okay, they can claim the insurance. Who has to pay a higher rate of insurance now? Who who is directly affected by claiming the insurance? It is the insurance company and it is the owner. The person who committed the theft and the damage has no consequence. It's just for fun. It's just, oh, like I was just young and immature. I didn't know any better. And I think I'll say it, it's the failure of the parents. It's the failure of their family or whatever you want to put it on, but the people that are in their lives, it's their fault. Why didn't they know any better? Why did people in like my grandparents' age knew that this kind of behavior was not okay? But then now, as we've progressed, they don't know any better. We're supposed to get better as we age as a society, but it seems like we've gone backwards because you can get away with this type of stuff. And so Jonathan's over here and saying that another way to do it is to find local communities and clubs that host free ones. It's a good one. I've seen some like like Facebook or Reddit. Those are all good places. I haven't really partaken just because I'm still a little on the fence. But if they have a good reputation to control it, I don't see why there should be an issue. Um, or look where the money's at in the suburbs. That's true too. It's just these people will go anywhere, right? Anywhere with a big enough intersection that they can kind of spin out, burn out, and do whatever. They'll do it on the freeway. They'll do it wherever. Um, they just won't do it on like a narrow freeway. Like that's kind of like the only place that is relatively safe of this kind of activity. Somewhere that's kind of narrow, hard to access, and there's not a lot of wiggle room to do stunts, if you will. Uh, However, when you put yourself in that situation, you limit the people that can come. It's hard to get to, whether it be just driving there or depending on the time of day, just traffic is hard to get to the place. It's there's pros and cons. The better you can control a place, the harder it is on you monetarily, effort, all of the things. And the easier it is, the more likely this type of stuff happens. And it's hard. It's like they can confiscate the cars, but again, a lot of these cars are stolen. So it's really punishing the person who was the victim in the first place when they confiscate the cars. Uh, I honestly have no real solution on how to control it. Just um, other than they lock down the intersection that they're at and give them the harshest penalties possible. However, in the Bay Area, we seem to be very lax when it comes to penalizing people who commit criminal activity. There's always a reason for it. There's always some kind of mental health or kind of issue with that, or they're so young, they're so young they didn't know any better type of deal. But I mean, I wish that there was another way other than like paying to go to an event that people can go and enjoy each other's time. I think really the next event that I would go to is probably WeekFest, uh, just because I already know that my buddies are going to be there. It's inside, and so like none of the cars are going to be running. All the people that are going to be doing the things are going to be outside, and even then, it's challenging to do anything really there in that convention area itself, because the streets there are kind of narrow because they have that island that separates the opposing traffic, and the areas that are open, there are a lot of parked cars, so it's hard to maneuver in that area. So it's okay. You would have to go a pretty good whiles away. Pretty much like it's in order to do anything reckless at an event like that at the specific venue, you're really going to be dissociating yourself from the venue in order to do something like we see here. Um, yeah, it'd be tough. So I feel kind of comfortable going to an event like this. I just wish more people could go to it. Um, that's all. Like I said, $30 to get in, and then early access, is it's okay. It's whatever. Um, it's not necessarily like an all day event, like you go to Disneyland type of deal, or you go to a theme park or anything like that. It's you walk around, you spend a couple hours there, and you're good. Even if you get the one that's like after 1 p.m. that you show up. Let's see here. Uh, the event goes all the way until 7 p.m. Like if you get there at 1 or whatever, like you spend like 2 hours there, 3 hours there. Maybe if you know some people, you hang out for a little bit, you're good. Um, 10, I mean, I would say like even like when it gets busy, uh, it's not that busy. It's really not. Like, I've stood in the line to go through the metal detector, and they look through your stuff or whatever, and it's really not that long. It's not that bad. I've gone there at like 3 some days, and it's not really that bad. Uh, and you're not really going to miss out on much, right? Like if you show up at 10, and if you show up at even 5, the same cars are going to be there because those cars can't leave the auditorium until after 7 p.m. once they start kind of clearing out the vendors and then allowing, they have to open up the doors and all that stuff, right? And there's a process in which they let the cars out. So it's not like you would miss out anything too crazy if you showed up later. Early access, you just see a little less people. It'd be a little quicker. Nothing, like I said, it's you're not gonna miss out anything if you show up later to WeekFest. Maybe some free stuff. Some of the vendors, they give out free stuff, so maybe you miss out on that. So it's just up to you to determine what you think what you think is worth it. Let's see here. Bay Area car meets. Let's see this. Okay, so there's a couple here. Let's see here. June 30th, 11 a.m. until everyone leaves. See, this is kind of dangerous. 11 a.m. till everyone leaves. That is, I don't know. Maybe that's one of the ones where you want to come early, leave early. Let's see. See, they say it's family-friendly event. It's in Concord. So we'll see. I mean, there might be a good amount of people there. Concord, there's a lot of open area. I don't know about the specific place. Let's see. There's another one here. June 22nd. Oh, it's a 2-day thing. This right here. Oh, it's Sonoma. So this is more of an organized event. let's see, this is more the same thing, right? Let's see, this one is June 23rd. Okay, so this is like a pretty chill one, June 23rd. It's pretty early. So, but then again, some of my friends, they did a toy drive, that was pretty early, and somebody decided to try to drift around a corner, and they wrecked like the whole rear end of their car. So, being an early event doesn't necessarily mean anything. I didn't even know that this page existed, so this is kind of nice. Let's see here. Walnut Creek. Oh, this one passed. Okay, so this was this last weekend. Okay, so that's nice. There's a thing like this on Instagram, and oh, I don't promote illegal events. So at least it seems like this is um, somewhat organized, right? This, everything from this one, it's a 2-day event. This seems very formal, the actual event. This one seems a little bit more informal because it's still everyone leaves. Um, and I like that they put this here: no sideshow activity, no revving, no burnouts, and that's good. They need to put that there. Um, However, I do know that there's some people who put this stuff there, they just don't enforce it. Like they put that there to quasi remove themselves from liability, but then like they're the person there. It's like, oh, just 3 is cool. Like, oh yeah, just do a burnout, no one will see you. Like, just come on. And so I tend not to go to those. I'm just interested though, like in your thoughts and opinions. I'm still kind of relatively new to all of this. So, what are your guys' thoughts and opinions on this stuff? Like, do you think that people like me were just old and kind of ruining people's fun? Do you think that, this stuff should be allowed, or we should find a way to limit the kind of activities that people are doing here, right? So, of course, it seems like you guys have already gotten my opinion on this, but I'm always interested, even if you do agree with me or don't agree with me to a certain aspect, like just, you know, let me know what we can do to make the community better. But no, this is a pretty nice page. This is a nice. Didn't even know that this one existed. Yeah. But I do. Let's see. Weekfest is on July 7th. So a little less than a month out. That will be the next event. Let's see here. EA3 said, I think it should be allowed, just not on public streets, on tracks. Yep, exactly. It's like they do have that like a lot. Like I know like SEMA has like a specific area for it. You can do it. Like Keys or Brian for Keys Motorsports over in New Jersey, I think it's where like they rented out like the old um, naval airspace, I think, in order for people to drag race. So like people know that, or like some event hosts know that people want to do this, and so they'll rent out a venue where they can do it. But like I said, it's just that then there's the cost that goes into it. So if people are willing to pay, then there it is. Let's see here. Parker the Rapper. I missed the 2020 night car meet scene. The COVID going on it was awesome to go out and look at cool cars with the homies. Yeah. Different. I feel like that was really, that year was a pivot point for a lot of things. A lot of things, I think, changed after that year. For better, for worse, I would say it's a toss up. It really depends. Some people made it out okay depending on the industry that you work in, other people not so much. Um, other people still kind of like are having a hard time. I think one of the biggest groups that have a hard time with it are students. That was a time where, like, for example, colleges were accepting a lot of people. People thought that a lot of their debts would get washed away, and now their debts aren't, right? A lot of promises made and a lot of promises not kept. So I think that's one of the toughest groups that have it out there, is like the people who graduated high school or were graduating high school, went to college, finished college, and they have that big lump of student loan debt. I think those people are the ones that have the hardest coming out of that 2020 year. I would also say, um, like, entry level jobs, jobs that like people could learn a skill set, learn like being on time, getting a paycheck, like high school kids that would just get a basic job. Because now, like here in California, we have like that $20 minimum wage. And so a lot of these fast food places, they're cutting down their staff, or they're making a lot of it autonomous now. So those jobs are harder for people to come by. And what once was like a good way for people to make good summer money, part-time money, extra income is out the window now, because it's just not offered anymore, or it's being taken over by machines. So, um, mom and pop restaurants, I would say like the new, like what people used to think like McDonald's is like a good entry level job. The new entry level job, I feel like now, is not even really fast food. I feel like it's to be safe. It's really like working at a store, like a brick and mortar store that isn't necessarily going to be in jeopardy by Amazon. So I would say like a Home Depot, a Lowe's, like hardware stores, because people will want to go to the store like a Home Depot or a Lowe's because they need a piece of wood and they also need it cut. Like you can't necessarily get that on Amazon because you don't necessarily know if the wood that you're going to get is good. Some people actually like to pick the wood that they want and then they need to cut it to a specific size. Um, then they're going to have to match up the hardware to whatever project that they're working on. Sometimes people want to get like tools on the spot and they can't wait 2 days for their project. Versus like a clothing store, like you can wait 2 days for new clothes. Some places that do um, like grocery stores, even like Amazon is starting to really cut into that. If you're somebody who doesn't like grocery shop as you need it, like it's like, hey, I'm gonna grocery shop for maybe like a couple days from now, those people are probably going to be lost. Like that customer base is probably going to be lost to Amazon because they no longer have to go to the grocery store. We're all sick of going to the grocery store, waiting in a long line when there's only one cash register person available, and for some reason the self checkout isn't open. Um, nobody wants to do that. Versus, I'll just grocery shop on Amazon, click, 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 boom, it's going to be at the door, no problem. I can do other things, right? Um, but yeah, I think 2020 was definitely a turning point, not just in the car scene, Parker, but for so many things, so many things. I I feel that some of it was good, like being able to work from home. Like some of the stuff was like, we've always known that a lot of people, a lot of these jobs could work from home. Companies just didn't want to do it. And then, the company can save a little bit of money by not having rent. The worker can save some money by not having to commute. They don't have to stress. Maybe they can save money on a babysitter because they can be at home and watch the kids, take the kids to school. So some things were good. Like I said, it just really depends on your industry. The car scene, I think, definitely took a hit. If you were to say, do I think that the perception of the car community, like a cars and coffee, a car meetup, hangout, do I think that the perception that people had of those events in 2020 versus 2024, I think the perception in 2020, before everything started to shut down, was a whole lot better than 2024. So you know, that's just my opinion. Maybe you will feel different, but yeah. On a different note, on JC is asking, did I have a code of vacuum leak before changing the turbo inlet pipe? I did not on the N55. I did on the N20. And honestly, I didn't scan it. I knew what it was. It's just the check engine light popped up. I knew what it was. Like I could feel it, and then it's like if I just put my hand down there and then kind of push the turbo inlet pipe just a little bit to make sure that it's sealed up, the check engine light would go away for a little bit, but then just due to the vibration of the engine bay, it would separate eventually, and then the light would come back on. So yeah, it wasn't an issue on the N55 because the N55 is packed in there. Like it's really packed in there, and it's hard for it to move even after the engine vibrates and all that stuff. The N20, N26, there's a lot more free space, so it can come loose in order for like the sensor to detect the leak. So I hope that was helpful for you. But yeah, I mean, yeah, that was kind of like what was on my thoughts for the last couple of weeks is how do we get better? You know, I started doing the live stream so that we can get better as a community. So I want to know like how we can do that. What programs am I using to edit the videos? I just use Final Cut Pro because I'm a MacBook, and I didn't like the idea of a paid subscription. I just wanted, it's expensive because it was like $300, but at least it was $300 5 years ago. I paid it and I'm done, right? So 500 over every year that I use it, I'm banking on that money type of deal. And it's good enough for what I do. I would say like Premiere or if you go into the Adobe suite, it's subscription based. It's good if you're working with a large number of people. It's good if you want more control. I would say if you're going to become a professional, or if you are looking to be a professional, then perhaps that would be the better way to go. But if you're just doing it for like YouTube, you know, to the extent that I am, Final Cut is more than enough. I know some pros use it, it's just limiting. So if you are planning to use it as a pro, just make sure that it has the upward mobility that you need it to, right? Like you won't hit a ceiling when you're using it type of deal. Let's see here. On a good note, I don't want everything to be down. So it's been a while actually since I've installed them. And they're holding up just fine. So these are the shop lights that I installed, the Barinas that I was talking about a while back. So it's actually these ones. It's a combination of the 4-footer and 3-footers. So I installed these a while ago. They're holding up just fine. The brackets, none of them are studded, and it's holding up fine because even the 4-foot one, it's super light. There is a little bit inconsistency with the green magenta shift with them, not to the human eye. It's when I start looking at the lights in post-production, so like when I record it on my camera, that's where I really start to see it. It's but when I'm actually in the garage, I don't notice it. So if you guys kind of wanted to check it out, see like if like the install process is something that you would want to do for your garage, and I made it simple. I didn't tap into anything. It is hooked up to the switch. All I did was just buy one of those light bulb socket plug adapters, and that was it. So far, I would say highly recommended. You know, but then again, everybody on YouTube recommends these lights, so I feel like it's a pretty safe bet. Next thing up is to install the hose reel. There's just a few more things I need to get to make sure that I can mount it onto the wall nicely. Um, so I'm just taking my time with that as I get some other things situated in the garage. But in that event, if let's see here, JC is asking, are you thinking about changing your car in the future? I would probably change out the red one, so the 328. I'd probably switch that out to 340 so that we have a B58 to work on before I change out mine. I'm very happy with my car as of right now. Uh, and then you're asking JC again, what do you think about plug-in? BMW have several cars with these options. Plug-in, um, oh, like the electric cars, you mean? Um, it's okay. Honestly, my recommendation, unless I see something really like innovative, I would always recommend that if you're looking into electric cars and if you can afford it, and Tesla is becoming more affordable, you know, they have their other tiers that are more affordable. Just get a Tesla. Yes, the QC of the car, like some of the trim and all that stuff, it's not the greatest. Like, yes, people are going to say like Lucid is more higher end, that this brand is better because of this. However, I think of like what Tesla's not necessarily like, they do try to have their luxury class or their luxury um, cars, because some of them are expensive. But I think what Tesla really did was what Toyota did to cars, is they nailed down the fundamentals. When you need to charge, the chargers work. They're reliable, they're not finicky. If you need to charge in a public area, the chargers are serviced. The app that is in your car tells you where the chargers are. It tells you if the charger is available. It's just reliable in that respect. Like, everybody that says like Tesla's not reliable, it's finicky, it's this, it's that, you know, it sometimes it reboots, sometimes it doesn't, it's not responsive. All of those complaints you would have with any other electric car manufacturer. It's just that Tesla does some of the other things better. It's more reliable. Um, that's what I'll say to it is, some of these companies, they're where Tesla was 5 years ago. So I just can't recommend it. If you're going to buy an electric car, as of right now, get Tesla. What I think was a good and a bad thing, you know, I see this stuff and I look into it just because of, you know, what I do for work. But Tesla, albeit they're the leader in electric car manufacturing, production, sales, all of the things electric cars they're the leader in. They were like one of the few companies, and I'll say they were the biggest standout company that did not receive any government funding, any government kickback. And I think all that really did was force them to utilize all of their capital, all of their money into actually producing a car that's reliable more so than the others. All of these other companies like Ford, GM, you name it, they got the government money and they squandered it. They got the money from the government, basically us, because it's our tax dollars. The government doesn't have any money. It's our tax dollars. They took our tax dollars and paid themselves. The executives paid themselves. They did innovation and research, but really it was paying themselves. And so they got free money for the government and they paid themselves versus putting that into the innovation of the other cars. And as of right now, just based off of like how I've seen the market, there's no way anybody convinced me otherwise, because how come Ford, GM, uh, you know, I'll even put, you know, BMW, Audi, how come none of these companies can create an electric car? Even Lucid, how come none of them can create electric cars to this scale, to the reliability of just the charge, right? Because when it comes to cars, right, what good is a car if you can't fill up gas? What good is an electric car if you can't charge it? How come none of these manufacturers can produce cars to scale that charge reliably like Tesla? It's because they squandered the money. But because Tesla didn't get the money, they're forced to actually do the real R&D to get a reliable electric car so that people will pay them for their cars, and then they actually get money that way versus getting free money from the government. That's kind of my gripe on it, and why I don't recommend any other brand than Tesla. Because at the end of the day, you can have all the fancy features, it can be luxury, the QC could be great, but if the car doesn't charge, you're not going anywhere, right? So the car needs to charge reliably, consistently, and with enough data points for me to have enough confidence that if I recommend this, my friend's not going to be stranded in the middle of nowhere because their car won't charge, because the charger hasn't been serviced. So that's why I don't recommend it. People can complain that, the door panel or whatever is crooked or whatever, but the car charges and you can go to wherever you need to. That's why I recommend Tesla. So if there are no other questions, it was great hanging out with you guys here, and I'm actually using the our conference room right now because, like I said, I can see it too. Like there's a window that I can look through, and I'm like, I can kind of like see. I'm pretty sure those are my keys. Like, how did they fall out of my pocket? I didn't notice. But anyways, it's fine. Next week we should be back in the regular setup. It was good hanging out with all of you guys. Thanks for keeping me company here through this slightly embarrassing moment. Hope you guys enjoyed the map that I got in the back here. I look forward to seeing all of you next week. Hope all of you have a great rest of your week, rest of your day. I look forward to seeing all of you next Tuesday.